Now we're on Daf Zayin Amud Beis, and we're up to the Yesh Omrim Af L'Schirus Batim. So we had a brisa earlier on Amud Aleph that says even as far as Schirus Batim, according to the Yesh Omrim, Echad Ben Nisan is considered Rosh Hashana. So Gemara now brings a brisa, and it's going to be clear from this brisa that what's considered Echad Ben Nisan Rosh Hashana L'Schirus Batim. A maskir bayis lechavero. He rents his house to his friend lishana, and the agreement was for a full year. Mone shneimosar chodesh. We will count now. The socher, the one who's renting it, he's the one who's counting down 12 months, full months, shleimin miyom, from the day that he rented it, ad liyom, until this day in the following year, and then the schirus agreement, the rental agreement terminates. V'im Omar, if the renter, the owner of the house, said to the socher, Lishana zu, for this year, I am renting you the house for this year. He didn't say Lishana, but rather zu. And afilu alo amad, ella bi'echad bi'adar, even if the time and the moment of the agreement of the schirus was on the 1st of Adar, which is just a month before Rosh Hashana, and the year is about to terminate 1 month down the line. Yom Echad Ben Nisan, also Rosh Hashana. A month later, from Rosh Chodesh Adar to Rosh Chodesh Nisan, which is Rosh Hashana for schirus Batim, also Rosh Hashana, the year is up, and the schirus is complete. And the reason for that is because he said L'shana zu. And here we have a kal v'chomer. For kolshkin, how much more so? Im avar yotzer michodesh, if it was a longer period than 1 month, from the time the schirus was initiated and commenced until the 1st of Nisan, the schirus is terminated. And this is what we mean when we say Echad Ben Nisan Rosh Hashana L'schirus Bat. The Gemara explains, this din only applies im sachar mimenu bi'echad biyadar or kodem lechem. It was at least 1 month, a minimum of 1 month's worth of schirus, as the Brisa said in its case. But if, let's say, he rented it into Adar after the 1st of Adar, then then the schirus would not be terminated on Rosh Chodesh Nisan. And why? I feel even according to Rabbi Meir, and we'll see his opinion later on in Daf Yud, that Yom Echad B'Shana Chashiv Shana, that 1 day is considered like a full year. Even so, Shiny Hacha here, in the case of schirus, it's different. A person would not go through the entire dircha of renting out his house, which means he has to clear out his stuff, he has to clean it, he has to go through a monetary contractual agreement. He wouldn't do that for less than a minimum of 1 month. So the barest minimum of schirus is 1 month, 30 days. And therefore, if the rental began after Aleph Adar, then we don't apply the principle that the year will end with Aleph Nisan. And even according to Rabbi Meir, the Gemara says, who holds the position that Yom Echad B'Shana Chashiv Shana, we can say that Rabbi Meir would hold in other areas other than schirus, that if you begin 1 day before Rosh Hashana, we're going to say the year is over and he gets a full year with 1 day. But now, in the case of schirus, we're not going to maintain that position. Rabbi Meir would certainly concede that we do not apply the principle of Yom Echad L'Shana. And the original Yom Echad L'Shana is back on Daf Beis Amud Beis, and that's where Rabbi Meir expressed and applied his rule, and that is that we would say that even in the renter began his residence 1 day before Nisan, it should be counted as if it was an entire year. No. Rabbi Meir would agree that the rental agreement is a minimum of 1 year. So going back for a moment, the Daf Beis, where we saw Rabbi Meir's Shita, we have, let's just see if we can find it very quickly. And he tells you that it's on Beis, Beis. It's also, the real sugya is later on in Daf Yud, but the Gemara does mention Rabbi Meir's Shita here. Let's just see. Yeah, there it is, on the top of Beis, Beis. Yom Echad L'Shana Chashiv Shana. And that's the case of Malachim. And we're talking about a calculation of Zman in a star, and you mentioned the years of the reign. So the king was already appointed 1 day before Rosh Hashanah, and that's considered a year. And even a day later was already into the second year, and that's how we'll calculate it and record it in the star. Not so in the case of Schirus. So the Gemara now asks the following issue. Tana Kama de Braisa. What about the Tana Kama of this Braisa that disagrees with the H-Home? The Tana Didan and also the Tana of our Mishnah. Neither of them said that Echad Benisa was Rosh Hashanah L'Schirus Bat. So what's their reasoning to reject the possibility of the H-Omer that Echad B'Nisan is Rosh Hashanah L'Schirus Bat? And the Gemara explains, B'Nisan Nami Mishkach Shchiach Kitre. Even during the month of Nisan, it's very common to find what we call a kesher, which is the way that we have cloud formation in the sky, and Geshamim will fall even in Eretz Yisrael, even during the month of Nisan. So that means that the month of Nisan, according to this Tana, is to be classified as Yemos HaGeshamim. And it's clear that the soker who's renting this house is not going to want to go out of his house in Nisan and be stuck during the rainy season without a roof over his head. And therefore, we're not going to say that Echad B'Nisan is Rosh Hashanah L'Schirus Batim, and that's going to be the deadline for Schirus, the termination, and that's when the socher has to pack out, and he's existing without a roof over his head during the winter months. The Mishnah says, B'Echad B'Elul, Rosh Hashanah L'Maser B'Hem. That's when the new year begins, and therefore we cannot be mafresh maser from 1 year to the other. So those animals that are born after Aleph Elul belong to the new year of maser, that will be mafresh b'nei Rebbe, and those that were born before Aleph Tishrei, Aleph Elul, those who belong to the previous year. Mani, who is the author of this Mishnah that identifies Aleph Elul as Rosh Hashanah for Ma'aseh Behem? The Gemara says, Rabbi Meir, it's got to be Rabbi Meir. It's not. We learned in a Mishnah on Daf Nun Zayin in Masechet Bechoros, Rabbi Meir Omer B'Echad B'El Rosh Hashanah Ma'aseh Behem. Can't be more explicit than that. And Ulu Regalim, at the beginning of the Mishnah, with regard to Regalim, Echad B'Nisan is Rosh Hashanah Regalim. For example, you violate Bal Tiachra when 3 Regalim pass, and that's considered Rosh Hashanah Regalim, Aleph Nisan. And that was the part of the Brisa of the Mishnah, and we didn't know who authored that part of the Mishnah. Mani. The Gemara suggests Rabbi Shimoni. This reflects the sheet that Rabbi Shimoni holds that you don't violate Bal Tiacher until 3 Regalim Kisidron pass by. Pesach is the first of the 3. The Ema Seifa in the Sefer of the Mishnah, it says, Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Shimon Omrim, Rosh Hashana for Ma'aseh Be'em is Echad B'Tishrei, not Echad B'Elul. That would be Rabbi Meir Shita, but rather Echad B'Tishrei. So the Gemara asks the following question. Reisha v'Sefer Rabbi Shimon, the beginning of the Mishnah and the end of the Mishnah, both are attributed and reflect the Shita Rabbi Shimon, Umitziyasa, and the middle part of the Mishnah, which establishes that Rosh Hashana L'Maaseh Be'emos Aleph Elul is Rabbi Meir. That's very strange. If the Mishnah really reflects the Shita Rabbi Meir, it should have been written in a way of stam, of an anonymous Mishnah that Echad B'Nisan, Rosh Hashanah Regalim, and then it doesn't explain that that only goes according and reflects the Shita Rabbi Shimon. If it's Rabbi Shimon, then he shouldn't have written as a stam Mishnah. And Aleph Elul is Rosh Hashanah L'Maaseh Behema. He shouldn't have just left it unattributed as an anonymous Mishnah stam Mishnah without writing that this is only according to the Shita of Rabbi Meir. You've quoted Rabbi Shimon. Shimon identifies Rosh Hashanah as Aleph Tishrei, and now you're going to write Pistama that although Aleph Tishrei is the termination of the Shalosh Regalim and clinches the violation of Baal Tiacher, that's Rabbi Shimon, and then you write Rosh Hashanah L'Maaseh Be'em is Aleph El without giving me any name, without indicating that this is the unique Shita of Rabbi Meir. And Gemara answers, Amar Rav Yosef Rebbe, then in truth, the entire Mishnah reflects the Shita of one single Tana, and that's Rebbe. V'nasiv le al liba de Tanoi. And Rebbe, in every single one of these dinim, as far as the three different definitions of Rosh Hashanah, expresses the view of that Tana, because he paskins like that Tana. B'regolim, with regard to Baal Tiacher, Savalei Kirab Shimon, that you require Shalosh Regolim Kisidron, and Pesach is the first. However, with regard to Maaseh Behema, Savalei Rabbi Meir, he holds that Rosh Hashanah L'Maaseh Behema is Aleph El. He asks the Gemara, Arba, why does the Mishnah say that there are 4 Rosh Hashanah? If all of the Mishnah reflects the sheet of Rebbe, Chamisha Havu. We don't find in the Mishnah Aleph El. That should be added as a 5th Rosh Hashanah. And if you remember, the Gemara had explained back on Daf Daled that when the Mishnah says that Aleph Nisan is Rosh Hashanah L'Regalim, it means that on Echad B'Nisan, the month begins. And the Regel is Chal in that month, meaning Pesach, and it's Rosh Hashanah for the Regalim. So Rosh Hashanah is really Pesach time on Tesvav B'Nisan. So there are really Sachakol, all told, 5 different Rosh Hashanah. Number 1, we have Aleph Nisan, which is Rosh Hashanah L'Malachim. We have Tesvav B'Nisan, Rosh Hashanah L'Regalim. We had Echad B'Elul, is Rosh Hashanah L'Maaseh Behema. Aleph Tishrei is Rosh Hashanah L'Shmita L'Yovos. And then as far as Shvat is concerned, we have the opinion of Basil, it's Tesvav B'Shvat. Now, if the Mishnah would have said, or would reflect the Shita of Rabbi Shimon, I wouldn't have asked this question, because Rabbi Shimon is of the opinion that Rosh Hashanah L'Maaseh Behema is Aleph Tishrei. So there are only 4 Rosh Hashanah. But now you're interpreting the Mishnah and attributing it to Rabbi Meir, and therefore there's an additional Rosh Hashanah, that's L'Maaseh Behema, and that's Aleph Elul. Why didn't the Mishnah and Rabbi accept the Shita of Rabbi Meir write that there are 5 Rosh Hashanah? Amar Rav, the Rav answers that in truth, the entire Mishnah reflects the Shita of Rebbe. And this is what Rebbe said. Even though, according to my opinion, there are 5 Rosh Hashanah, but nevertheless, Arba l'Divrei HaKol. Everyone is going to agree that there are 4 Rosh Hashanah. That's universally accepted. But Rabbi Meir, according to Rabbi Meir, let's go through it. Arba, there are 4 Rosh Hashanah. Why? Because we're going to drop the ball on Rosh Hashanah L'Regalim. That's going to be omitted because Rabbi Meir, as we saw back on the Dalet and base, disagrees with Rabbi Shimon about Rosh Hashanah L'Regalim. The Rabbi Shimon Yesh Arba, even according to Rabbi Shimon, there are 4 Rosh Hashanah. Dal, we're going to subtract and drop Ma'aseh Be'ema, the Aleph El of Rabbi Meir, because Rabbi Shimon rejects the sheet of Rabbi Meir of Aleph El. According to him, Rosh Hashanah L'Ma'aseh Be'ema is Aleph Tishrei. And that's how we're going to justify that Rebbe used the number 4, because everybody, whether it's Rabbi Meir or Rabbi Shimon, would agree that there are 4 Rosh Hashanah. Now the Gemara gives another answer. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Amar, that why is the minyan in our Mishnah 4 and not 5? Because there's no yachas here to the Mispar Yomi of Rosh Hashanah. We're only counting Mispar Chadashim of Rosh Hashanah. And therefore, Ba Chadashim, Ubahem Kama Rosh Hashanah. So in these months, we have some Rosh Hashanah, more than one, because Nisan has 2 Rosh Hashanah, and yet they count it as one. Let me just take a moment to read to you a note over here in the English translation. He says the following. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak said that the Mishnah means there are 4 months, and in those 4 months, there are many Rosh Hashanah. And in the note, he points out there are 2 Rosh Hashanah for Nisan, the first of the month and the 15th of the month. Yet we're going to count them as one because he's calculating months. And that's called Arba Chadosh. Basically, the Gemara raises the following objection. Shisha Asar B'Nisan, Rosh Hashanah Li'omer. The Brisa identifies Rosh Hashanah for Omer as the 16th of Nisan. The Torah says Mimachas HaShabbos, and that's when the new grains are going to be brought as an Omer, or the barley grains in any event. Shisha B'Sivan, Rosh Hashanah L'Shtei Alechem. When do we bring the Shtei Alechem from the new Karban Mincha, from the grains of this year? We bring it on Shavuos, on the 6th of Sivan. LeRava, according to Rava, Lisnei Shisha, the Mishnah should teach us that there's 6 Rosh Hashanah. And Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Lisnei Chamisha, it should teach us that there are 5 Rosh Hashanah. According to Rava, the Mishnah should count 6 because everyone agrees there are at least 6. And according to Rav Nachman, the Mishnah should count the months in which various New Years fall. Thus, even though the 16th of Nisan would not necessitate a counting of a new month, but the 6th of Sivan should, and that would give us a total of 5 New Years. He says here, in the note, he says, the Mishnah Mones HaChadoshim, Sheyesh Bahem Rosh Hashana, the months that have Rosh Hashanah. Amnon, Shisha Sar Nisan, who Rosh Hashanah Liomer, Eino Mosif al Minyan, Ha'omer B'Mishnah, Kevin Nisan Nichal B'Minyan. We already have Nisan as and included as a Rosh Hashanah. We don't have to add the 16th if we're counting months. We already have the month of Nisan registered as a month that has in it a Rosh Hashanah. But nevertheless, because of Rosh Hashanah, L'Shtei Alechem, which is in the month of Sivan, therefore L'Snei Chamisha, we should have 5. Amar Rav Papa, Ki Kachashav Midi the Chayil Me'urd. The Tanavan Mishnah is only calculating Rosh Hashanah in a Davar Shemaska B'Tfilas Hashanah Shalom, which is Chal Me'erev on the evening of that day. Tfilas Halayla. Midi the Chayil Me'urda, Lo Kachash. Something that doesn't begin until the next morning is not calculated in the minyan of Rosh Hashanah. And therefore the Omer is not going to be counted because there's nothing going on at night. The Omer is brought during the day, like any other korban. So Rosh Hashanah for Shtei Lechem is likewise not going to be counted as Rosh Hashanah because it doesn't begin at night. Rosh Hashanah means it's a day as a total unit, which begins at night. The Gemara rejects Rav Papa. Is it really possible to say that the time of Mishnah doesn't count Rosh Hashanah for something that doesn't begin at night? Varei regalim to lo chayil me'ur to the kachashim. Violation of Bal Tiacher if he lets 3 regalim go by without bringing his carbon because he took a neder to bring a carbon. That's only chayil me'urta. That's only chayil in the daytime, not me'urta. Why? Because he can't be makriv of a carbon, for example, a carbon tov shel shacha, whatever carbon it is, he can't be makriv until daytime. And therefore, if a person has a neder zova, he can't bring that carbon at night. He has to wait until the day. Now, the Gemara thinks now that regel generates a chova to bring a carbon which he accepted upon himself, committed himself with a neder to bring the carbon. He can't fulfill that obligation unless it's royal akrava. There's no akrava at night. Beis Hamikdash is closed for business. Nevertheless, the Tana counts Rosh Hashanah l'regalim amongst the Rosh Hashanah. How do you understand that? And the Gemara answers, "L'suye meikara machayev v'koi." We're talking about a carbon that he took a neder to bring the carbon, and already from the beginning of the moment that he took the neder, whenever it was, day or night, it doesn't matter. Even before the 15th of Nisan, he's already chayev. He's mechuyev in the carbon because of his neder. And therefore, the regel is not imposing upon him a chiv to bring his carbon. He's chayiv in the carbon from the moment that he took the neder. The Torah just says he doesn't violate Bal Tiacher until 3 regalim kisidron pass from the time that he was mischayiv to bring the carbon. But the minyan, the counting of Shalosh regalim, depends upon Tchilas HaLayla at the moment of the Knesas HaRegel. He writes, Eino over Bal Tiacher el overall of Shalosh regalim shleimim. Kevin Shedavar Zed Toli B'Tchilas HaLayla Shel Pesach Im Nodalavi Carbon Achar Shedichlas HaRegel Shel Pesach Lo Yichashiv She'Overlav Pesach V'Achar Shenodar V'Yaver B'Bal Tiacher Rak Im Lo Yavias Carbano Ad Sukkos Shel Hashana Shniyah. And the Gemara now brings another answer to the question why our mission does not count Rosh Hashanah for the Omer, or Rosh Hashanah for the Shtei Lechem. Rav Sheisha, Reder Avidi, Omar Kika Chashiv, our Mishnah, when it calculates Rosh Hashanah, is Midi Delo Tli B'Maisa, only something that its beginning is not dependent upon the Asiyah of a Maisa. It begins Me'elach, automatically without a Maisa. But Midi, the Toli B'Maisa, a chiyuv which depends upon and is initiated by an asiyas ha'maisa lo kachash. The Tana does not count it in the minyan of Rosh Hashanah, and therefore it doesn't count Rosh Hashanah li Omer or Rosh Hashanah l'Shtei Lechem because Eina Mishnah mischadeshes lahatir lechol mitvuah chadosha ela b'maisa shel akrovas ha'omer. The year itself does not generate a heter, which means to eat Min HaChodesh, which now is Yoshan, unless he does a Maisa of Akrovas HaOmer. Same thing applies to Mincha from the new grains. Until he does the Maisa of Shtei Lechem on Chag Atzeres, he cannot be matir any of the new grains for Menachas Al Gabi Mizbeach. And therefore, we're talking about a Askola that's totally the Maisa. So Gemara asks, Akasha on Rav Shisha, is it possible to say that Tana doesn't count Rosh Hashanah with something that's initiated by a Maisa, like Omer and Shtei Lechem, or a Regalim? Regalim, we need a Maisa. What does it mean? Rosh Hashanah Regalim, which means that he violates Bal Tiacher. If he delays bringing his carbon and fulfilling his neder, 3 Regalim pass, we need the Tali B'Maisa. He needs a Maisa of Hakrava, And which hakrava would be the hakrava that engenders the violation of al tiacher? It would be the tamid shel shachar of the first regel, because that's the zman that's nitan lahakriv nedarim nedavis. Once they bring the carbon tamid shel shachar, now the floodgates are open, and you can be makriv nedarim nedavis. And nevertheless, the kachashiv, the Tana of our Mishnah counts Rosh Hashana l'regalim amongst the Rosh Hashana. So you see that even something that's totally b'maisa, in this case the tamid shel shachar, nevertheless that Rosh Hashana is counted. And the Gemara says that's not a kash. Al tiacher me'melech chayil. Al tiacher is chayil me'atzma, without any mice. Although it's true, the carbon tamid shel shachar kicks off the day, but nevertheless, the Bal Tiacher is Me'melech Chayil. It's Chayil by itself, Me'atzmo, without any Maisa, once there's Knisas HaRegel. So the Gemara now raises another objection here on the top of Daf Hey. Varei Liovlos. What about Yovlos? You need a Maisa to start the year. Rosh Hashana Yovlos. Yovlos achal to Bezdin blow the shofar on Yom Kippur of the 7th year, of the 50th year. So even though you need the mice of Tkiyas shofar, and the Gemara apparently feels that that's absolutely critical to engender the Kedusha of Yovel, nevertheless it's counted by the Tana as one of the Rosh Hashana, Rosh Hashana Yovlos, and it's initiated by the Masechet Tkiyah. And the Gemara answers, our Mishnah reflects the Shita of Rabbi Yishmael, Benosha Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka, and according to Shita, Yovel begins immediately on Aleph Tishrei, and it's not dependent at all on Tkiyat Shofar on Yom HaKippurim. The Gemara now quotes one last answer of Rav Ashi to explain why there are only 4 Rosh Hashana. Rav Ashi Omar, Arba Rosh Hashana Meim, Shem Arba Rosh Chodosh. We have Aleph B'Nisan, Aleph Be'Elul, Aleph B'Ditrei, Aleph B'Shvat, according to Beis Shammai. But Rosh Hashanah that are mentioned in our Mishnah that don't begin with the beginning of the month, and the month is split half last year and half the new year, that's not considered a minyan, and our Mishnah is not considered in the counting of Rosh Hashanah. And therefore, Rosh Hashanah L'Regalim is not included in the minyan because it's not on Rosh Chodesh, it's not the beginning of the month, and that's the same reason why the Mishnah omits Rosh Hashanah L'Omer, which would be on the 16th of Nisan, or Rosh Hashanah L'Shtei Alechem, which would be on the 6th of Sivan. So Gemara asks, what are you talking about? Yecha B'Shvat Beit Shammai? You giving me an answer that defends Beit Shammai? That doesn't make any sense. Stam Tana is Beis Hillel, and then the Tchilas Hashana is on the 15th of Shvat. The Gemara answers, this Tana does not contradict Beit Shammai. I'm sorry, this Tana I meant to say is not so same, not so same, but so same to Beit Shammai, because in the next part of the Mishnah quotes the machlok between Beit Shammai and Beis Hillel. When is Rosh Hashanah Lilanos? And that is in a commentary, a pirush on the beginning of the Mishnah, Hachi Kama. And this is the way we understand the Mishnah. There are 4 Rosh Hashanah, as we enumerated them, and 3 out of 4 of them begin on Rosh Chodesh. Everybody agrees on 3 out of 4, whether it's Al B'Nisan, Al Be'el, Al B'Tishrei. That's the Divrei HaKol. Or Rosh Hashanah v'Yecha B'Shvat, the Mishnah is telling us that's not universally accepted, and it depends upon the machlokes between Beis Hillel and Beit Shammai. So this is where we're going to stop for today, and Amir Hashem, the Yom Rishon will start here on Daf Ches Amud Aleph. Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon Omrim, Rosh Hashanah L'Maaseh Behema, B'Echad B'Tishrei. I take this opportunity to wish everyone a Shabbat Shalom. Thank you very much.